case, which has already been ruled on by the Industrial Tribunal, raises serious questions about conflict of interest, abuse of authority, and whether vulnerable workers can truly access justice when power and family ties intersect at the highest levels of the labor system. According to a September 1st, 2025 ruling by the Industrial Tribunal, Jennifer's role was made redundant in July 2022 after Abby's Catering, operated by Uris Farkas and Morrison, lost its contract to run the Queen's College Cafe, Q Cafe. Ms. Roll had worked at the company for nearly 9 years. The tribunal ultimately ruled in Ms. Roll's favor, awarding her $6,360, which included redundancy pay and an additional penalty for the employer's failure to comply with the Employment Act. Yet, according to Ms. Roll, the struggle did not end with the ruling. There's no money in the deal. One of the most disturbing aspects of the case centers on a phone call Ms. Roll says she received in October 2022 from Robert Farquharson, the government's former labor chief and brother of her employer. Ms. Roll testified that after pressing her former employer for her severance, she was instructed to call Mr. Farquharson directly, despite him not being her employer. During that call, she said she was told plainly, no money will be paid out. When I tell you go to work, you go to work. A slightly different version recorded in the tribunal's ruling quotes him as saying, there's no money in the deal, no money in the deal. When I say go to work, you go. Crucially, this account was never challenged during the tribunal's proceedings. Mr. Farquharson was not called as a witness, nor did he submit a statement to dispute Ms. Roll's testimony. When later contacted by Tribune Business for comment, Mr. Farquharson declined, saying only, I have no comment on that, sir, before ending the call. The tribunal found that Mr. Farquharson's alleged statements were directly contradicted by guidance Ms. Roll received from the Ministry of Labour itself, which advised that she had in fact been made redundant and was free to seek new employment. She did just that, finding work with the new operator of Queen's College Cafeteria, yet still could not access unemployment benefits because her former employer was not up to date with national insurance contributions. Oh my God. Adding another layer of controversy, Ms. Roll testified that she was later approached at her new workplace by Noel Farquharson, another sibling in the family, and a serving police sergeant who delivered a letter requesting that she return to work for Abby's Catering. The tribunal described aspects of his testimony as unhelpful and incredible, rejecting claims that key documents and payments were delivered at times that did not align with established facts. In firm language, the tribunal rejected arguments that Ms. Roll had abandoned her job. It ruled that, instead, that her redundancy was real and lawful under the Employment Act. Requests for her return to work were belated and strategic. The timing suggested an attempt to avoid paying severance after she asserted her rights. The tribunal called the outcome unfortunate but unavoidable, concluding that Ms. Roll had been made redundant as of July 8, 2022, and was legally entitled to severance. Now, years later, Ms. Roll says she is still fighting to be made whole and wants the public to hear her story, not just as her own struggle, but as a warning. This case raises uncomfortable but necessary questions. What happens when labor officials become entangled in private disputes? Can workers trust the system when power, family, and authority overlap? And how many others may have walked away quietly believing there was no money for them? This is very concerning for us here at TMI. We take note of the tribunal's findings and the broader implication for workers across the Bahamas.